Chapter 10. After a week of rest at the oasis of Turpin, the caravan set out once more, and Chengli had learned nothing about his father except that he could ride a horse and he loved music. It was something, but it wasn't much. When he thought about it all, he thought how he was not like his father. His father was important. Chengli was nobody. His father loved horses. Chengli knew only camels and donkeys. This was not what Chengli had hoped for. As they prepared to leave Turpin, Master realized that the sun had lost a bit of its heat, and thus the caravan returned to traveling by day. They still walked with the dry, desolate sand of the Taklamakan Desert on their left, but now they walked to the west with the gray of the Gobi Desert far behind them. On their right, the Tian Shan Mountains soared into the heavens. Mile followed mile, week followed week, and Chengli kept scanning the horizon, hoping to see more than just the desert haze hanging low against the ground. And then the call came down the line. "Look, a shadow above the haze! It's the double roofs of the tower on the gate of Kucha." Even with the tower in view, they walked 2 more days before they could see the red brick below the tower, and even then the view of the archway was blocked by the farms along the river. With the farms came the flocks of sheep. Tiny water wheels lifted water from the narrow river and splashed it into the irrigation ditches. Orange persimmons and red pomegranates hung ripening on their trees. Beyond the trees, finally, the crenellated stone wall of the city came into view. Master Feng's caravan set up camp, and by the second day Chengli got his turn to explore the city. "Are you coming?" Chengli shouted to Dakshish and Sudarshana. "Yes, the princess is coming too," the girl called back. Mei Ling and her royal guard rode their horses up to Chengli. "Where's fourth brother?" Mei Ling asked. "I haven't seen him," Chengli said. "Let's go without him." They approached the city but stopped to stare at the 2 huge statues of Buddha guarding the entrance. Towering twice as tall as the wall itself. "Trust in Buddha is strong here," said Dakshish. And sure enough, inside the city, the streets were crowded with hundreds of brown-robed Buddhist monks, mingling with crowds by the shops, talking in small groups by the bazaar, and standing quietly with their begging bowls held out, waiting for gifts. Mei Ling and her guard gave their horses into the care of one of the monks and walked to join Chengli. He grinned and stretched his arms out wide. "This is just like being in Chang'an," he said, "a huge city and thousands of people, all kinds of clothes and all colors of hair. And what a jangle of words! People must come with caravans and then decide to stay. It really is like being home at Chang'an." "There's a difference, though," Sudarshana said. Here it seems music comes at us from every street corner." Sure enough, dancers in long, colorful skirts twirled and swayed with delicate hand motions and arms that sparkled with bracelets of red, blue, and clear beads. Even their slippers glittered with the jewels sewn on. By a fountain, a man played on a 2-stringed instrument that looked like a round gourd with a long handle. Down the street, 2 drummers strolled along, pounding out powerful rhythms, and at the street corner, a group of old women stood playing 4-stringed instruments, jade flutes, and sheepskin drum. Dakshish laughed. "That old woman is banging on her drum as if it were a naughty child." "I adore big cities," Mei Ling said, her voice rising with excitement. "Truly, I will rot living in a nomad camp. I can't even imagine living in a tent and drinking tea made of rotten milk." She gave a toss of her imperial head and led the way into the bazaar. Narrow stalls lined both sides of the walkway where merchants sold everything from nuts and raisins to ornate daggers and bejeweled swords. Others sold hats, knives, boots, shoes, vegetables, nuts, and even carpets. Dakshish stepped around the one shoekeeper sitting on the ground, his long striped robe wrapped around his knees and dusty, bare feet sticking out from the folds. Chengli watched the merchant packing fresh eggs in a basket, each layer of eggs protected by the layer of sand. The center of the bazaar opened into a large courtyard crowded with haphazard collection of rough-hewn tables, wobbly benches, and food vendors selling fresh fruit, right next to another selling chunks of roasted lamb or dried squid and octopus brought from the far, far oceans. Side alleys sent out the squeals and snorts of goats and sheep waiting to be traded. We will eat and watch the entertainment, ordered Mei Ling. Choose a table at once and order some fruit for each of us, Chengli obeyed. Kucha is so busy it makes Chang'an seem calm, Mei Ling said as she settled into a bench. The royal guard stood behind her and accepted a pear from Chengli. In the emperor's city, everyone lives by the emperor's rules. In Danhong, the city of the festivals and at the dunes, soldiers and inspectors give the orders. Here, I think there must be hundreds of rules, and they are all different. So here we can do whatever we want, Chengli said, sucking on the sweet juice from his pear. I will buy 100 ribbons and tie them all into my hair at once, Sudarshana said, running her hands across her braided hair. I will leave our caravan and join one headed south over the mountains back to my family, said Dakshish, climbing up on the bench and pretending to look over the mountains. I, Chengli said grandly, will help our princess escape from the caravan so she can live forever here in the city. He bowed low before Mei Ling. Thank you, skinny one, Mei Ling said. I accept your grand offer, and in return, I promise never again to give the order to remove your head from your shoulders. She laughed and motioned Chengli to rise. Look, Sudarshana pointed left. Dancers from Persia, interrupted a woman standing nearby. They come every year. The rhythmic beating of the drums kept the dancers twirling in an uneven circle, with their left hands on their hip and their left legs almost straight. Their tight-sleeved blouses and long flowing skirts were embroidered in many colors, and at their waists they wore silver belts. Their hair hung loose and flickered across their faces as they twirled. What fun to dance like that, and let your hair hang loose, said Sudarshana. And there, Mei Ling said, pointing straight ahead, look at those musicians piled onto one camel. She stared up at the 6 musicians who sat back to back on a platform fitted over the camel's 2 humps. They play such happy music, even the camel dances to the rhythm. She recognized their song and sang along. Come join us, the drummer called down to Mei Ling. There's always room for one more. Princess, Chengli said, you could escape your fate if you joined a group like that. They'd travel. No one would ever find you. Oh, Mei Ling shook her head. I couldn't. Not really. She watched as the camels swayed in time with the music. But, she grinned, and hummed another line. What fun it must be to live like that. Look over there, Chengli nodded to a shadowy group of men hovering together over one filthy table, their daggers glinting in the sunlight. Cutthroats and thieves, I'm sure. Keep them away from me. But, Dakshish explained, that's 4th brother. There, right in the middle of them. He's probably trying to sell something, Chengli grumbled as the musician's camel bumped its way between the tables, blocking his view. Fight! Fight! Shouts filled the courtyard. The royal guard jumped forward, pushing Mei Ling down under the table. Dakshish leaped up on the table. 4th brother's right in the middle of the fight, he yelled. 4th brother, come out of there right now, shrieked Mei Ling as she scrambled out from under the table trying to see. Men ran from all directions, elbowing their way into the fight. 4th brother disappeared. Find him, Mei Ling shouted. Chengli scrambled over the table and shoved his way into the thrashing tangle of arms and elbows. He ducked one blow and darted between two others, but he didn't see Fourth Brother anywhere. The fight spread across the courtyard. Chairs toppled. The musician's camel bolted. Musicians tumbled, instruments fell. Chengli fought his way back through the mess to Sudarshana and Dakshish. "We better get out of here," he yelled. Mei Ling's chair was empty. "Where's the princess? Where's the guards?" Sudarshana looked around wildly. "Under the table," she screamed. "The guard is under the table. There's blood all over his face. Where's Mei Ling?" "There!" Dakshish pointed across the yard to the archway that led out of the bazaar. Chengli swung around just in time to see a man carrying Mei Ling, kicking and screaming out through the gate. "Stop him!" Chengli yelled to anyone within earshot. "He's got our princess! Somebody do something!" His cries slid unnoticed in the chaos. He stood frozen in confusion as his thoughts raced from Mei Ling to the wounded soldier still under the table and back to Mei Ling. Suddenly he yelled, "Go, go!" and his body flew into action. Far ahead at the archway, he saw the man holding Mei Ling push through the crowd of people and jump into a waiting horse. Chengli ran until he recognized the royal guard's powerful horse tied to a post. He stopped, his breath locked in his throat. "I can't do this," he thought. "I can't get on that animal. I can't ride horses." He shook his head and gasped for breath. His eyes clamped shut. Then he heard clearly in his head the words about his father, loved horses, powerful rider. "I will," he shouted. "I am my father's son." And he pulled himself onto the back of the horse. "Go!" he shouted, and the horse took off. Chengli dug his knees into the horse's side and hung on to its mane with all of his strength. "Go, go, go!" he shouted again, and the horse strained forward to follow the trail of dust leading toward the distant mountain.